We return now to a story we've been following since struck-off real estate agent Aaron Drever turned grocer in November of last year. Mr Drever was stripped of his real estate licence in 2016 after he was found guilty of misconduct on 9 occasions over 5 years. In November, Mr Drever was revealed as the new owner of a failed Nosh grocery store in the Auckland suburb of Mount Eden. He told us he had turned his life around. He'd re-employed some former Nosh staff, and he told us of his new venture, the Grocer's Market, failed. He would sell his house to pay staff and suppliers. But since we returned to air this year, Checkpoint has been contacted by an increasing number of staff and suppliers who say they're owed money by Mr Drever. Here's Zach Fleming.
Quite early on, I did get a gut feeling that it was he just wasn't going to pay me.
That gut feeling turned out to be right. Paloma Cheadle is the former marketing manager for the Grocer's Market. She's owed more than $3,000.
Now, the reason for that is I just looked around. I just started observing the way that other people were being treated, these are other suppliers and employees.
She says she hasn't seen a cent from Aaron Drever for the 3 weeks she worked for him.
I have absolutely no faith in Aaron Drever. I think he's extremely dishonest. I have no confidence in getting paid.
Grant White owns Logotech, which supplied the uniforms for Grocer's Market staff. He's one of 10 suppliers Checkpoint has spoken to in the past fortnight who were owed money by Aaron Drever. The smallest bill is just less than $700, the largest more than $30,000. Checkpoint interviewed the owner of one small business in the South Island yesterday who's owed more than $4,000 by Aaron Drever. Then we went to the Grocer's Market.
Hi Aaron, it's Zach here. I'm just wondering why you haven't paid your bills. I've got 2 more suppliers that are saying they've been trying to get paid and you're not paying them.
We're working with all our suppliers, so please leave the building.
We left, and Aaron Drever then contacted that South Island business owner. They then decided they no longer wanted to be part of the story. The situation is similar to a fortnight ago, when another supplier pulled out of a Checkpoint story after also being contacted by Mr Drever. Grant White from Logotech is owed almost $4,000. He's now the second business owner owed money by Aaron Drever to take his case to the courts.
I found him to be extremely untrustworthy, an outright liar, in fact, dishonest.
Can you give me a specific example of a time he's lied to you?
Oh, yes. The best example really is the original excuse as to why we hadn't been paid, because they didn't require any branding on their garments, and because of the urgency they actually picked them up from 2 of our suppliers, 2 wholesalers who operate out of Auckland directly. He claimed that they'd actually given a cheque to the suppliers. This was, well, there's no record of that ever happening. It's very unlikely, but what actually proved it to be an absolute lie was the fact that the only thing he had to go by was our invoice. Now, all the garments from both suppliers are listed on there, and there's a total. He would not have known which supplier was to get what amount, and so it was clearly just a lie. It couldn't possibly have happened.
Mr White says going to the media and taking legal action was a last resort.
It doesn't really help our business. It's probably not going to do anything whatsoever to solve my issue, in other words, get my money. But I think it is definitely a warning to other businesses out there.
Paloma Cheadle is also considering legal action. She was also the marketing manager for Nosh, which went under last year, owing more than 100 employees, including Paloma, more than $300,000. Suppliers are also understood to be owed more than $1 million. Last question, any faith that you'll ever be paid?
No, I don't expect to. I actually know of quite a few people who are owed a lot more money than myself, people who literally did not go home to their families. They worked so hard and they're not getting paid. And I don't get that.
Paloma Cheadle talking to Zach Fleming. Zach is with me in the studio now. Zach, you've heard from Aaron Drever this afternoon?
Yeah, he declined repeated requests for an interview, but he sent us a statement late this afternoon. He said that he reiterated things he's previously said, that it was a far larger, far more complex challenge than he'd ever envisaged. But this is the first time he actually acknowledged that he does owe suppliers money. But he said he will pay them, and he reiterated again that if he has to sell his house to do that, he will do it. But he didn't say when he'll deem that necessary. So some of these bills are 3 months outstanding, and he wouldn't say when is he going to sell his house if he needs to. He said he's working with the suppliers and says he has options, including obtaining a more experienced operator and selling the business, or getting a line of credit from banks, getting third-party investors, or restructuring. The statement continued that he has 380 suppliers and 30 staff, and that all those staff have been paid. But that obviously goes against the reporting that we know. I've talked to several former staff members who say they haven't been paid and Aaron owes them money. He finished his statement by accusing Checkpoint of painting a misleading picture and being overly alarmist because he has 380 suppliers and we've only spoken to around 10 of them. But we should have more on this story soon, because there are quite a few suppliers who haven't spoken to us on the record yet because they're still hopeful that Aaron will pay them.
Zach Fleming, thank you very much indeed. Zach Fleming, who has been doing work on this story and the Nosh story before it.